Welcome, welcome. I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, Prescription for Your Transformation, Real People, Real Conversations, and Real Success. Really excited today to have an enlightening conversation about who we are and bringing back this amazing individual from up north, from Canada, Edwin Coppard, and joined today by my producer, John. So thanks so much for joining us today and be part of the conversation. Sedona is going to be missing out. And here's the question that we often, ask ourselves, even though we don't maybe do it as often as we should consciously, perhaps unconsciously we're doing this, but who are we? Who are we really? And who are we modeling? And what kind of role are we playing? And how do we define that role? How do we define that person? All in all, how do we define ourselves in our identity? One of the strongest forces in human behavior psychology is to remain consistent with how we identify ourselves, how we define ourselves. But how clear are we about that definition? And truly to master life, truly to master all parts of what life is all about, is really also mastering your identity. And so there are tools out there, there's reference points that we can utilize to really appreciate, how can we define ourselves? And the best way to define ourselves is using a symbolic approach. A symbolic approach as far as a word or a phrase that effectively characterizes all parts of us. People are using superheroes these days, and today it's about archetypes. But more importantly, the voice of that archetype, the voice in the body of you using that archetype. And that is what Edwin brings to the table today, brings to our show today. Really excited to have you here. Edwin has tremendous experience in helping people get their voice, their true voice, because in essence, our relationship with the rest of the world is really through our voice. Thank you for joining me, Edwin.
Thank you. That was a beautiful setup, Art. I'm going to start with a story which isn't about the archetypes. It's actually a dream I had about a month ago. Now, I don't remember my dreams, so this is rare that I remember it so well. But I was in a room full of people, and I recognized that these people were mostly musicians, if not all musicians. Some of them I kind of knew, most of them, I didn't really know that well. And I'm just wondering, what is this, And I see a musician that I know. He's a famous Canadian, and he knows me in real life. So I go over to him and I say, what's going on here? And he said, all these musicians in this room have got to the point where their music is the pure vibration. It's the real thing. They're not playing notes anymore. They're not playing rhythm anymore. They're not trying to make nice words that rhyme. They're just in the vibe. We all know it when we meet that or we feel that. But these are all in the vibe, this whole room. And I'm going, cool. And then I see Mick Jagger there, which made me laugh, but yet I got it because the guy's totally in the vibe. Always has been. When Mick Jagger just opens his mouth and he makes that move on stage, he's in it. He's totally in it. And I thought to myself, well, what am I doing here? Why am I here? And then I thought, you know what? This is what I do with people. I bring them to their voice, which is their primary vibration. The first thing you did when you came out of the womb, you made a sound. Usually pretty obnoxious. And, and you got fed and you got love from that sound. Right away, you got held, touched, and you got fed. And I mean, that's so nourishing right there, just that reaction to your voice. And I thought to myself, this is what I do. This is what I need to do with musicians, actually, because there's so few of them that really understand how to be in that real vibe that's trying so hard to be groovy. And some of them make it, but most of them just don't. They don't feel it enough. They're not feeling their voice enough. They're not in touch with their primary sound anymore. And the way that the voice has been trained on this planet is really mind voice. It's all about language. It's all about understanding the word, trying to pronounce it correctly, and trying to have a conversation. And as we know, that even in the same language, it's quite difficult to have a conversation sometimes. Just doesn't work. You don't understand them.
Right.
Look at the interpretation of any of the scriptures, it's a mess.
It's
Everybody
interesting.
has.
It's interesting you bring that up because I love listening to music, and I love listening in particular to voices, the voice of music. And it's a great way to get connected. One of my values besides love and health, my third value is universal connection. And this is an energy connection that we can all share if we have what we call the sensory acuity for that, the desire and the ability just to focus and pay attention and just to be open to that energetic connection. And that's what's so beautiful about music. It's so beautiful about voice, because it facilitates that process so effectively, so seamlessly, if it's done well, and conveys so much information and so much emotion that it essentially lifts our essence, our beingness, our experience in this world because of that. And so it's a great shame then that most of us really have not had the ability, understanding to use that voice and share it with others and conveying, the gifts that we have within us.
Well, when I was in Fiji, I noticed that everybody in the tribe, the local village there, everybody was singing. I also noticed that there were no singing teachers, which is
no job for you there.
No, I don't like to be called a singing teacher because I don't believe you can teach singing. You naturally sing. It's a natural. If you were with a tribe of people that all sang, you would naturally sing. It's that simple. If you're with a tribe of people who do nothing but talk all day, you're going to naturally talk.
Well, John is a singer, right?
Yeah, and I'm really stunned that I just take this pill for Sedona, and I've been watching this guy's videos, and I don't know. I'm very. This is a good show.
Well, it's very. The thing is, it is natural. It is natural to sing. I've always thought that because I can get anybody to sing.
Right.
The thing is, you connect with your body. That's what you do, and you feel what you feel, and you express it. You don't go to your mind with an idea.
So why aren't people singing?
Why aren't they? Because you learn to speak first. You should have learned to sing first. I bet you in Fiji you learn to sing along with speaking, or if not before. Just because, why? Because it's actually easier. You don't have to figure out what it means. You just feel it and express it. You can figure it out later if you want. And usually it does mean something. That grunt from a child, that means something. And a good mother will tune into that and know exactly what the child needs.
And too often, however, people are being told not to sing, or that they have a bad voice, or they're no good. And my daughter is a perfect example of that. She's got such a beautiful voice, and she's actually quite talented. And if only, the people around her never told her that she shouldn't sing and that she doesn't have a rhythm.
It's bizarrely ridiculous. But anyway, I've been doing it so long, I just know that everybody can sing. And not only that, I can get voices out of singers that are much more authentic, because most of them are copying, trying to sound like somebody or be like somebody or be socially accepted. When it's hungry, well, should I, scream in the key of E or the key of A? Who gives a shit? The fact is, if it's connected to what they feel, that is what will be communicated, because it's sound. Sound is vibration. Sound has meaning on a level, but beneath that meaning is the sound, which is the purest level of that communication. And that's what's been cut off. And now we try to monitor that and become so socially correct these days that it's painful. Nobody can say anything that's even slightly out of line anymore. And that makes me want to say it even more.
Right.
Personally. It's just
because
so annoying.
The work that you do is indeed transformative. People do change their lives. And so
when your voice comes out,
So
Your
share with
energy.
us, share with the listeners, what kind of transformations you get to experience with these people, because
Well,
it's got to be magnificent.
I had a magnificent teacher. Her name was Trudy Buckler. She started off one of the greatest opera singers in the world that Pavarotti calls immaculate, and then she tragically lost her voice in an awful accident, was told she wouldn't sing or speak again, and 10 years later did learn to sing again, but not with the gift that she had. And she married a doctor of physiology, and she rewrote the book on singing. And you couldn't argue with her because she knew the mechanics of a great opera singer and how she did it, and you couldn't even tell she was using technique. And she was brilliant, and she passed that on to me. And then I went out and added things like muscle testing and kinesiology and all kinds of stuff, because I realized that if you affect the body, you affect the sound. In other words, your body is your amplifier, and your vocal cords is your speaker, and your mouth and the vocal cords is the speaker, and the mouth is the cone. They don't have control on your sound. They only dictate what's given to them by the body. And then they shape it into the language so that it comes up onto that level of language is far more superficial.
Right.
It's very interesting. So I take people back into their body. Where do you feel it? It's one of my biggest questions. Where are you feeling it? What movement does your body want to make? How does your body actually want to dance right now? Because we've all become listeners. We sit in chairs and we listen all day. We're the easiest people to hypnotize. If you've got people in chairs, you've got them, because they go back to school in a heartbeat. And they start actually believing the shit you're saying. Because they hypnotized. They're totally hypnotized in chairs. Easiest group to hypnotize. So we've all been hypnotized in school. We're all in language modality, and then they're teaching voice in that modality. Wrong modality. You've got to connect back in your body. You've got to move, make sound, be free to make sound, have permission to do anything without being reprimanded or corrected or told you're right or wrong. That has no place for it. You can't have any fear in your expression. You can't. If you got fear, you're going to hold back your message, your purpose on the planet. If you've got an ounce of fear of expressing yourself.
So how do you help them, Edwin? How do you help them with the fear? Because everyone...
I hit them over the head with a stick. No, sorry. No, seriously. It's expressing and being given permission. There's no criticism in my workshops or my classes or my approach. I don't care if you sound like a... I remember a woman once opened up quite a bit, and she sounded really well. She said, "I sound like a chicken." And I said, "Yeah, you do." She did. She sounded like a freaking chicken. But the fact is, it was natural, because it's what the sound she needed to make to get that out. Another woman said, "I sound like my mother." Obviously, she was trying not to. That's the last thing on earth she wanted to do, was sound like her mother. We've got so much phobia around our voice, and so much phobia. So I undo that phobia. I muscle test you. I had a guy on stage at Tony Robbins once, and he was singing, and I muscle tested his hearing. I went above his head with a click. I went in front of his head with a click, and behind him. And the one that was weak was his right ear. On the right ear, his arm went down like a no strength. So I said, "Listen out of your right ear." And this is just intuitive on my part. I said, "Listen to your father." He was 10 times louder, just like that. I couldn't believe it. Nobody in the room could believe it. Huge voice came out of him, because he was a big man and you would have expected it. But he was singing like a mouse before. And then afterwards he looked at me and said, "My father always yelled at me."
Mm-hmm.
That kind of pattern suppresses you. You start to cut off your hearing so you can't hear. You don't want to hear your father yelling at you. So he wasn't listening out of his right ear properly. A lot of sound engineers could really use a lot of balancing. They were not balanced, and they're making our music. It's very interesting. Somebody's giving me the thumbs up. That's good.
I think he's giving me a thumbs up. So, but here's a question I have for you, because as you're talking about your voice, kind of curious because with actors, they assume many different types of voices and accents and things like that. As a regular person, do we have multiple voices that we can, authentically tune into?
Totally. Totally.
Hey, how are you?
Now, this is
Hi,
really
guys.
far out. This is really far out, and maybe I'll lose half my audience, but I don't care. I was singing a song once, a song I know really well, and suddenly I'm hearing other languages that were not from this planet. They were out of tune with me. They were out of rhythm with me, yet I knew they were singing along.
You mean in Canada, Canadian voices, right?
I don't know. Somewhere in the universe, as far as I could tell, wasn't a country, wasn't a known language. There were some known languages, but mostly languages I did not even recognize. And it was coming through my voice, all these energies. And then I went and sat after the singing next to a guy in the audience, and he turned out to be a bit psychic, and he said, all these people came out of space, came to the concert. And I went, holy cow, I figured they were singing along.
Wow.
So the thing is, so this is a bit abstract, but whatever. There's no limits. We are so limited in our idea of our expression. You sound like this, you sound like that. The fact of the matter, anything can come through you. The Greeks and the Romans did not believe that you owned your creativity. And that was one of the biggest mistakes of the Renaissance period, saying you own your creativity. Your ego had to come in and own your creativity. So if you failed, you were the fuck up. You were responsible for the fact that you couldn't pull it off. Now, the Greeks and the Romans, they felt the creativity come from the devas, the angels, the gods. And when it came through, everybody could tell it came through that person on that stage. And they go, yeah. But then we switched it and made it our ego. And so consequently, artists are not really respected well, and they often die miserable deaths and suicide and drugs and God knows what, because they're trying so desperately to own something that they don't actually own, that comes through you from the universe. And that's the voice I'm after. The voice that is coming through you, wherever it's coming from the universe. That's the voice I want every human being on this planet to have, or before I leave. So I've got about 25 years.
Okay.
I'm serious when I say that. And it's brilliant. We'll be lifting rocks. We'll be doing all kinds of wild stuff with our voices that we can't even imagine right now, energetically. Healing each other, writing songs that are our legacy. It's so beautiful. But then let's come back to something. I can segue into the archetypes from this brilliantly, okay?
Great.
So you can get a different character in a song by, for instance, putting your attention and singing it to your mother. It's powerful. Now, the song might not have anything to do with your mother, but your mother might be the perfect person for you to sing to line up with this song and bring through its message. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
It might be totally uncomfortable too. It might be blissful. It might be painful because you got to heal something.
Right.
So, in the 90s, I got turned on to the archetypes. I got turned on to Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette's work from a client of mine said, you got to go to this seminar, Edwin. I said, sure. What is it about? She said, the archetypes. I said, what the heck is that? I didn't even know it was a word. I had no idea it was a word in the dictionary. So that was interesting. So I went. I was impressed. And there are four primary archetypes, they felt: the warrior, the magician, the lover, and the sovereign. And they split in, we've discovered, because they didn't talk about this in the seminar, but we've discovered since, because we can see them, and my wife can see the archetypes of me or you or herself, and I can tune in pretty good too, but there are 8. There are male and female of each. They're meant to be working together. In most cases, they're not in a human being. Now, so, for instance, you've got a song in front of you, and say it's a love song, and you try singing it in your warrior. It's probably going to suck. It's the wrong energy. The warrior will do it because he's told to do it. But I remember a guy coming in for us, and I never thought he'd come back, but he came to my longer seminars, and he started a singing tune, and I said, what the hell happened? He said, well, when I came to that first session with you, I was at Tony Robbins' seminar. I was totally in my warrior, and my warrior doesn't sing. It's hilarious. And so he was totally out of tune. But then he found it because his lover sang, and his magician would put together a pitch, and Sovereign sang, and the warrior probably could sing a bit better, but, you know, in the space he was at, it was all action, and, you know, singing was just not on the platform. So interesting. The archetypes are fascinating because we've discovered, we've done thousands of sessions, in the tens of thousands of sessions. So we're probably the world's experts at this. We've done so much work behind the scenes, and books are coming out from it very soon, from me and Cheryl. And but basically we discovered that you can find your own archetypes from the point of view of expressing yourself more fully. Because if you've got a sovereign song, and you can tell by singing it in the sovereign, it feels right, you get some emotional impact. You start feeling the feeling of the song. If you sing it in the magician, it grabs you for the first minute, and then it loses it, because the magician is good at figuring out trickery to get your attention. But then if it's not the real thing, it'll fade away. And the lover, well, maybe grab you for a bit, but it just doesn't hold you. And the warrior just, doesn't cut it at all. And you go, well, it's the sovereign singing this song, so you go into your sovereign energy.
Right.
And this influences the tone of your voice because you're changing your body, and you're bringing in that, and it's also affecting the level of communication that you are having because you're coming from the right place. If you're trying to talk to a guy who's fully in his warrior and you're trying to charm him with your lover, probably not going to cut it. Right? So it's fascinating work to communicate, because every communication that we are having is from one archetype to another. So let's take a song like Let It Be. No, let's take a song like, what's John Lennon's famous song?
Imagine.
Famous song by John.
Imagine.
It sounds warrior. It sounds magician. Get there in a minute. It sounds sovereign. You think sovereign. No, you think magician, actually, because imagine. That's what the magician does. He imagines a lot of stuff all the time.
He's a creator. He's a visionary. He imagines things.
So you think, imagine you think it's the magician singing. But when we tried it out, definitely wasn't the warrior. He doesn't imagine much. He wants stuff that's real. And definitely wasn't the lover. They don't like to imagine being in love. They want to be in love.
Right.
So it's the sovereign.
Why the sovereign? What part of the sovereign is making that?
He's telling the magician. He's talking to the magician saying, hey, dude, the way you're seeing the world isn't that good. Imagine this. He's giving the sovereign a blessing, and the magician a blessing of a new way. Because Lennon, he was a bit of an angry bugger. Didn't like his father, that's for sure. Anyway, whatever. He had an edge, which was great for the Beatles. He was the magician in the Beatles, and he gave the magicians a kind of edge, bite.
So Edwin, just for our listeners, just have an appreciation. Hey, Edwin, just for a moment, just explain the differences between the four archetypes, the sovereign, what are some of the qualities, the lover, the magician, and the warrior, just so people can get a grasp of that, because I think this is important, because it's also how you show up, and then share with us, which archetype is showing up on your show.
Absolutely. I'm a lot of magician right now because I'm teaching. That's what the magician does, but I'm also trying to bring a sovereign vision.
Right, I sense that.
I'm also trying to feel people, and your question has helped me do that. Like tune into, you're there, I'm feeling you, because that's how we connect, and that's how love flows. So warrior is action. It's a part of you that would, suddenly get up and, jump in front of a car, you're out and rescue them, or,
right.
So it's simple, very simple, basic. Warriors don't have long affairs usually with people because, the next day they're going off with the sports team or off with the rock and roll band. So one night stands common with warriors. Okay, so that's warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Magician, that's your mind. That's a skill. You're a plastic surgeon amongst other things. You're becoming a
Right.
really good talker of those too. And you have learned a skill, which gives you value in life. In this terms, quite good value, I would say. You get well paid for that. And so that's a good value to have, but it's a skill that you've learned. You didn't know how to do that when you were 5.
Nope.
And you learned that skill, you've adapted it, and people pay you for it. So even though you're pretty wealthy, you're still in the blue collar industry because somebody has to pay you. Which is talking about wealth on a bigger scale and discussing that with the archetypes. The key is to create wealth, not to just make money. But anyway, whatever. That's a whole other story, but that's the kind of thing that this opens up. So the magician also understands the mechanics of money, exchange, and witnessing, which is silence, which is a surprise to most people. The magician's silent, usually always has an opinion, always has an argument. No, the essence is silence, no opinion, therefore it's unbiased. And it can start to see the deeper truths. That's a sage. A Vedic sage can understand the deep scriptures and bring out the truths of the universe so everybody understands. I'm a great teacher. Okay, lover. That's the next step. The magic of love baffles the magician. They can't even start to figure it out. So it's a more powerful magic. And we don't use it. We do not use it. A little bit, but not enough. The lover is touch, senses, has nothing to do with the mind and the logic, or even the intuition. His sensory system. I see you now, and I see you pondering this and feeling it. And it's when you touch or sensorily connect, love flows and grows. It grows. I say to all couples, especially the men, when you come home from work, go to your woman, touch her, and simply ask her, how was your day? And then shut up and listen. We're not trained to do that, so we don't connect. One guy was a warrior in the police force. He came home every day, never took his jacket off.
Right.
3 years later, one child, considering a divorce.
Right.
I told her to come home, touch her, he's still with her. Because if you don't grow love, you find a reason not to be with them anymore. Most of us have never been taught how to grow love. In business, if you don't grow love, you won't expand your business at some point. It's not just the trickery of the magician and the clever marketing. You get it. That's at one level. But if you can expand the lover, you will expand, period. And people will feel your nature expand like that into your business. People in your business, the people who work for you, you need to love them too. You love everybody. There are no boundaries to love. No boundaries. It's a baffling concept. It's always growing. It reaches the ends of the universe by the end of your life, and you're a huge luminary individual in God consciousness. This is the archetypes for you. There are only 4. There's thousands of archetypes, but they all fit into 4. That's why it's brilliant. And finally, the sovereign purpose of your visit here to the planet. What you came to frickin' do, dude, or be, will be more to the point. And this is the biggest question everybody has. Because you kind of think but what the hell is it anyway? And that's the sovereign. The sovereign does this, and the king and the queen. The male and female, just briefly on the male and female, if you go back to the warrior, a man without his female warrior is not a very strong warrior. Why? Because he can't see behind him. And he can't plan properly, because the female warrior makes the plan. She'd be the planner even in your surgery, probably, because you want the least damage with the most effective result.
Right.
Least damage. So you want the least deaths in the battle.
How about
The
no
outcome.
deaths?
Pardon me?
How about no deaths?
Well, ideally, we need to transcend out of this whole battle scene.
Right.
Training our young children, our young men to kill. What a fucking waste of time. It's a karma, bad karma, even if it's for good, which they bullshit about.
Yep, no, it is. You're right about that.
It's all
So
about money. And
here's a question I have for you, because doing some research today on archetypes, and clearly there's all these different views, and for the listeners, where it really originates from is the work from Freud and Jung, and really appreciating what they were talking about was the universal unconsciousness within us, and how it derives a lot from mythology and everything else. And if we do look at mythology, and then we look at the sovereign, and then more specifically the king, what I found interesting about the king, and I'm just kind of curious to hear what you have to say about this, is that the king seems to be replaced on a regular basis. The king is dead, long live the king, because a new king comes in place. So does that fit in within your thinking, that ever so often the king is just replaced with a new, or the sovereign is replaced with a new one?
I have a client in Australia who's very, very wealthy and hangs with, big time people. And he once said to me, he said, Edwin, I rarely meet a sovereign. It's a rare commodity on the planet. The magicians got rid of all the kings in all the governments and queens. Mind you, a lot of the kings and queens were really assholes. They weren't governing in a good way. They weren't. A good king is serving the people. They come first, serves his people, brings them to the highest level of their possibilities as a tribal consciousness of moving forward. But we don't have we don't train our children for that. We train our people to make money and have a skill that'll make them the most money. And then, it's twisted. So that not a lot of sovereign energy. We've got to get it back. We've got to get our kids back into it. We've got to wake up the sovereign big time, because that's what we need in order to.
But does the sovereign also encompass all the other ones in essence? So he's like the divinity of it all?
The sovereign uses the other. The sovereign will use the lover to connect with his people.
Right.
He will use the magician to teach the people how to take advantage of his sovereignty. What the people can do. He will use the warrior to take whatever action and protect the sovereign. Look at the protection Queen Elizabeth has. You don't just walk in.
Right.
Hi, Queenie. Can we have some tea? You're out of there. You'd be so out of there. And in Japanese and Chinese courts, they had archers behind the walls. And if the king said, come forward one step, and you took 2 steps, your life was over.
So how do you specifically help people to understand, appreciate, and then own those different archetypes within them? I mean, what is that journey, maybe the hero's journey? What is that journey that you take people on so that they get the grasp?
I'm going to teach you something right now. If you put your attention on somebody, like let's say your mother. I don't know whether she's alive or dead. I don't know whether you have a good relationship with her. That's irrelevant. But I want you to both of you guys, put your attention on your mother's.
Okay.
And where is she? Maybe in your body, maybe behind you, maybe above you. Where is her energy?
No, she's right here.
Right here. Good. Okay. That's how simple it is. Because everything has location and everything has their energy. You can also look at her energy now and sense how she's doing. True?
Yep.
And that's very useful with anybody. How are they actually doing inside? Are they struggling with something? And then, I did this on the way over. I checked out this guy's Archetypes as I'm driving to his house. He's a record producer. I wanted to see if I wanted to do something in his studio. And I got there and I liked his studio. I liked him. But there was a deep, he'd been divorced. There was a deep loneliness in this man. And his son, he was having trouble with his son.
Right.
And I knew what to say to him. I said, dude, you need to do, you're a guitar player and you're really good. You need to make music again. Don't leave the music behind. You need to come alive and make your music again. I didn't work with him, but I knew I'd helped him because I tuned into him. Tune into people. So where was I? So you got your mother, okay?
Right.
So that's how simple it is to get an archetype. So let's do the sovereign. What the hell?
Okay.
So they're often in the body, but not always. So when you put your attention, let's go for the king in particular. Let's go for, where is your king right now?
Well, for me, John, you're gonna have to answer this one too. For me, it's right here, right in front.
Good. John, where's yours?
In my body, it feels back here.
Good. All right, good enough. So now, if you put your attention on your king, what condition is he in, Bart?
He's great.
Anybody can do this, wherever you are.
Yeah.
How is he?
He's great. He's solid. He's strong. He's
I don't
present.
think mine's
Good.
as strong.
Pardon me?
Mine doesn't feel as strong.
No, the location gives that away. Kind of got him back in your neck. Probably worried about something or trying to do something back there, you know? Just running a session I did with somebody, and the queen was standing on the king's back, who was standing on all fours in his throat, and she was trying to hold up her neck straight, clearly trying to put herself out there in the world as somebody, but in a lot of pain from it, a lot of tightness. So we reversed that. I said, no, you got it the wrong way around. He should be standing on her. She's the basis. She's the groundedness. He's the one who puts it out into the world. Anyway, this is the sort of pictures you see very quickly of how somebody's doing. And we have brilliant ways of bringing them into a better place, basically shamanic work, if you like, or moving the body, rituals. You know, they've been done for centuries. They're not weird stuff at all. They're just natural to do. And then the archetype suddenly starts to heal and become more useful. Had a guy with a sovereign in his low back. He'd had back pain for 15 years. He could see them. 60% of people see them. Did you see yours, Bart?
Did I see what? My sovereign?
Yeah. Some picture.
Not so much saw him, but I sensed him.
Good enough. Anything can happen. He could see him, and I said, how is your sovereign? He says, he's on my back, in my low back, on a swing, 5 years old. Oh. Obvious question. What happened when you were 5? My father died. So here's a 50-year-old man with a 5-year-old king. This isn't good. Anyway, we moved him up to the head with the help of his father, funnily enough. Beautiful, beautiful process. Because he was stuck in the chest. He couldn't go any higher. We moved him up to the forehead from the low back. He couldn't bloody move anymore. And I said, what's up? And he said, well, I've got this young 5-year-old boy in my chest and he's lost. And he was breaking down into tears, which wasn't like him. He was a jock, you know. And the next morning he comes in. I didn't even recognize him. I said, what happened? He said, my king grew up and my back pain is completely gone. What is going on?
So I'm going to ask John a question if he's open to it, and see if you want Edwin to reposition your sovereign.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yes. That would be...
Okay, so he's in your neck right now.
Right.
I don't want him to go up. I want him actually to go to your stomach, of all places, okay? Stomach. So close your eyes, John. And just find your sovereign in your neck, the king, and then have the intention. The whole thing is intention more than anything. You can also make sound, you can move around, whatever, all of these things. But right now, just have the intention that this king moves down to your belly area, okay?
Okay.
And breathe. Another minute. Have the intention that he comes down to your belly. Put your hands on your belly if you like, so that he kind of knows where he's coming, you know? Ah, that helped. There's really no rules here except for like straining or killing yourself. You just do it, and they work. It works. Is he come down?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question. How does he feel down here compared with the neck?
Warm.
Good.
Feel warm. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Feels
Warm is
fuller.
good.
It feels fuller,
Say it.
but
Fuller. Good, good.
I almost feel like a vacuum though in my neck, like he wants to go back.
Well, that's just because you've opened up a space now. So if there's any tension there or healing, it will heal now naturally. Just like the guy moved his king out of his low back and his low back pain went away. I mean, that's major after 15 years. Holy cow. And so you relocate, you create the space in that place, and quite often if there's something out of balance there or in pain or physical trauma, that will release. So this is pretty brilliant stuff. I can't tell you the stories I've got on this and the songs. I'll finish on this note. I'll probably finish. The songs that people write out of these experiences. Holy cow. This is the music.
Let me hang on a second, Edwin. How do you feel, John?
Oh, yeah.
You can open your eyes.
I feel a fullness and a weight in my stomach, power maybe.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you feel more centered and aligned?
Yes, I feel more centered, and I just think this whole thing is so strange. I'm making my 4 CD right now, and I just sent half of it to mixing, and he got it today. And I come here to fill in for Sedona, and this is what we're doing. I've struggled for years with my vocals. This is just weird. I'm really confused.
Well, you just met me, so hello.
I know, it's a weird timing because I'm going to turn in 11 songs.
It screws up the status quo. It totally screws up the status quo because I'm working with the energy of the body and relocating things and putting things back in natural order. And the voices that come out of this are just like insane. They're so beautiful. They're so.
So actually, this would be a good segue into the last part, and thank you, John, and clearly you shifted your energy. It's awesome, how you seem a lot more centered. You seem a lot more powerful just right now, and how quickly and easily that actually happened, just with some guidance from Edwin. I mean, that's awesome, and your voice changed too, by the way. So
you're good at this, Bart. You're good at this.
I'm totally baffled.
I
feel like I'm on a hidden. Is this a hidden camera show or something? Because
yeah, absolutely.
The things I'm dealing with right now in my life, and then I come, and this is what I didn't know what show I was doing today. I didn't know. I just filled in.
Well, Sedona probably conspired for you. So anyhow, but I do want to ask Edwin something because that's very, very relevant, particularly with what we just did. So you do workshops, and you do them in Canada, and share with us the kinds of workshops, what people can expect with these workshops, and how they're done, and are they done in person, are they done online? Because I know you have different packages.
I can be really, really to the point because we just reset everything. I'm going to be doing intros of all kinds, like this, or live in person for an evening, or with a choir, or with a business, or with a group of any people anywhere. We can arrange for me to come to intros. That's how you sort of find out about it, plus get the books and everything else out there. That's that level of it. The first course I'm going to be giving, the most fundamental, is a 3-day, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. It's an introductory course, which I'm still struggling with the name for it, but basically will introduce you to the archetypes, introduce you to a workout with your body so you can get the body reconnected with your voice again, introduce you to what we call the field, which is an unbounded field of emotional energy, which is just huge energy that can come through your voice. There's a secret of Pavarotti. That's what he was doing. He didn't explain it, but that's what he was doing. I don't care whether you're opera, pop, or whatever. If you do this, your voice will blow you away. And then that's the 3-day intro. From there are a couple of things. One is personal consultation with me on the phone, by phone, Skype, or in person. if you're close to me, or you can also do a 1-year training, which we're really excited about. Basically, in 1 year, we take you to a 90% plus level of energy in across the board in your life. Now, I'm not an expert at plastic surgery. If I taught you that, you'd lose your job quickly. And but the thing is, I am an expert in voice. I can bring your voice to 90% plus. I don't say 100, although I've heard it. I don't say 100 because that's kind of enlightenment. And we'll do that the second year maybe. But 90% plus is a very cool world-class place of energy. And I need a year of that. You know, I need a year of training you to be in your voice. It'll include a 6-day course, our famous 6-day course that we've been doing for 20 years. I did it. And then it'll include homework every week, you know, on your relationships, your primary relationship with your mother, your father. Because any relationship that has a bit of angst is holding your energy flow back. And we've all got them. Somebody that is not sitting quite right with us. So that's one of the monthly things we'll sort out. It'll be a session not just with me, but with my wife, who's freaking genius. Think I can dig in? She just puts me to shame. She can go deep in your archetype so you never even knew you had that world in you. And it's brilliant because she opens it up. So 12 months of this, that's that session. One more course, which is not being done, but I'm going to talk about it just to be crazy. It's called Lifting Rocks. And a famous guy who's world Hall of Fame, got in the Hall of Fame for inventors, which is much easier than getting into the Hall of famous musicians, because for musicians, you just have to shag a lot of people, then you automatically get into that Hall of Fame. Sorry, that was really rude, but never mind.
No comment.
I was laughing at my own joke. That's really bad. Anyway, the fact is, I didn't expect it from him, and he said, you need to teach people to lift rocks. And I thought, you're mad, you know? And then I came home, I Googled it, found somebody who knew about some Tibetan people right now who are doing it. And he also, just brilliant. And, you know, lifting rocks. And I Googled it, got liftingrocks.com. I couldn't believe it. And yeah, I haven't figured it out yet, but I got to be honest, I'm working on it. I have a rock down in my basement. I work on it every day with sound. There's quite a bit of swearing that's going on because the bloody thing hasn't lifted yet.
How big is the rock? Like that?
I could blow it. No, it's about like this big. It's heavy. Good weight. And I'm beginning to have breakthroughs in my mind because I realize that we think everything is solid, but nothing is solid. Everything is in motion. So that helped a lot. I started to see how I've got to get into that kind of energy or consciousness, if you like, and create sound, and this rock will start to lift. But the idea of it is fabulous because everybody has rocks they want to lift. Everybody has perceived rocks that are holding them down, right? So they could lift a rock even with a group of people. They've got to start asking the question, well, what else can I heal? What else can I do with my voice? And I think it could create a phase transition in the world. So that's all my courses. Check me out on realpeoplemusic.ca, I believe it is. Or Edwin 8 Coppard, Coppard, at me.com. I will get in touch with you and we'll get something started. Love to hear from you.
Yeah, I just want to wrap it up and have people appreciate Edwin and what he does. And one thing I know that we do, most of us do, is really take for granted our voice. And our voice is that connection with the world around us. It's the voice that gets things done. It's the voice that, and certainly how we then show up in any kind of relationship, whether it's an intimate relationship, whether it's a family relationships, friends, partners, or in business. Big, seminars, conventions. Look at these politicians and their voices. And the power of the voice is enormous. I mean, look at Martin Luther King. We just celebrated, him just recently. And so there's that power to change the world. And there's that responsibility that we can find, that we need to find within ourselves, to own our stuff, to come into that alignment with who we are. The best person, the best
responsibility.
I'm sorry, what?
I love the word responsibility.
Yeah, and be, find that the best version of ourselves. Because here's the truth. The better that we are, and then the better we get to communicate that, this world becomes a better place. Rather than finding everything that's wrong, rather than, being the victim. And that's huge because, we were talking early on a conference call that I was on, that most people are the victim. They're at the effect of the world around them. You own your voice. You find that voice. You find that comfort. And just like you just now experienced, John, owning that sovereign, there was probably a voice there somewhere that was saying, look, your sovereign can't be where it is, where you want it to be. It's going to be, on your back. And that's not a very powerful place to have that sovereign. And it's these voices, these other voices that are louder than our own, that really are deciding, how we show up in this world. And so by discovering that voice, discovering that energy within us, discovering the power that we have, and as you mentioned early on, not making your voice wrong, but making your voice right, making it your voice, even if it's a chicken voice, is awesome. And all the coaching in the world is not going to help you until you also own that voice that you have. And that's what I love about what you're doing, Edwin, right now.
Some of that other coaching.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, because sometimes owning your, that other work can actually have some value. But if you're not based in your true sound and based in your body in the right way, it's almost damaging.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another
totally
step outside your body.
Yeah. And again, I'm reading all these different books about, how to pitch things and stuff like that. And it's understanding, that you can say all the right things, but when you're not owning your voice, you're not going to get anywhere. But anyway, as we wrap it up,
by owning your voice,
go ahead.
By owning your voice, you must have your intention clear. You must know the value of your communication. You must know the meaning of your communication.
Yeah.
Because if you're not in touch with that, what are you communicating? Interesting.
So I'd like to give you the last word, Edwin, as we wrap it up.
Oh. Well, thank you, Bart. I've really enjoyed this. I hope I haven't spoken too much, but it was fun. It's always good to get that stream of consciousness. But the bottom line is, I really want to see people singing together again. We don't. And that's a terrible sadness, because when we make sound together, we create our tribal tone. We create our tribal family. We let ourselves be heard just with sound, and we create that collective sound of that together. And that is just it's like a bath of sound, which bathes us in energy and bliss and beauty and life. And that's what I want to do, and I want to create the music out of that and get the world's biggest record company in 10 years. And also in 10 years, I want big festivals. I want big festivals, and not with the normal speakers who just talk about money and shit. And that's getting just so boring, it's not even funny. That's not what people want. It's not what people really want. And they don't realize that money isn't connected to their purpose. What makes them happy in life? It's just a distraction.
So let's all create a world and sing in this world. Hey, Edwin, I really want to thank you for tonight. And I am Dr. Bart Rademaker, prescription for your transformation, real people, real conversations, real success. Enjoying connecting with Edwin Coppard. You can reach him. Where can they reach you again, Edwin?
Edwin8 8guy@me.com.
Okay.
Or what is it? Damn, I'm completely spaced out. Give me a moment. Don't go away. Let's talk about something, Bart.
Well, we'll post information on Facebook. So it's Edwin 8guy@me.com, and that's Real People Music, right?
Yeah, and it's edwincoppard.ca.
edwincoppard.ca. Excellent. Thank you so much, John. Thanks for joining us today, and welcome your sovereign.
Thank you.